Hi guys, my name's Darren Blakely. I'm the owner here at Optimize in Blue Tree in Phuket. I'm telling you a story about a client of mine in the past who he was a serious trainer. He exercised frequently, he ate really nutritiously, he really was on a great pathway when it comes to the top two parts of the performance pyramid, the exercise component and underpinning that, the nutrition. And he had ticked both those boxes and was doing an amazing job. But he had to lose 5 kilos and he was having trouble losing that weight. And for me, it was a bit perplexing. I didn't really understand what his problem was. I dug into it a bit and I asked him to do a questionnaire asking him things like his sleep habits, his working environment and other things he was doing outside of his training with me at that time as his personal trainer. So he came back to me with some quite alarming issues that were highlighted in the questionnaire. And the first one was that he was really only getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night, which kind of shocked me because I didn't think people could survive on 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. And then the second thing that shocked me was he was only getting 5 or 6 hours a night because he was spending most of the rest of the time in his office in a high pressure environment where he was trading on the stock exchanges, not only at that time in Singapore but also in the United States. So he was having to be awake long periods of every 24 hours to ensure that he was doing his job correctly. And this really alarmed me as well. I dug into the story around hormonal response to stress. Okay, so he's got two massive stresses going on, lack of sleep and a high stress work environment. And what happens in that situation is cortisol elevates. And when we're in an elevated cortisol state, we cannot meet our goals around losing fat and gaining lean muscle. We simply can't do it. Our bodies won't allow us to do it. And so I sat the client down one day. He came into the studio and he was ready for his 1-hour PT session. And as usual, he was really wired because he'd had a long night on the markets, had a brief sleep, and he was in the studio getting ready for the Singapore trading day. And I sat him down and said, "We're not training today, mate." And he looked at me and he said to me, no, we're training. I need to train. I need to get my fix. He was addicted to the training as well. He was getting this endorphin rush as part of the training regime. And so I sat him down and said, "Listen, dude, we can't train because you are overstressed. This is part of the problem. I think if we did some blood work on you, we'd find very high levels of cortisol." We didn't need to do the blood. I didn't need to prove to him saying was true because he knew it was true. So after our discussion, he understood that the level of output he was doing in his work environment was creating a lot of stress and that he wasn't recovering enough from that stress with his sleep regime. So what we did was we decided that he would cut back on some of his responsibilities in his office. He was able to delegate some of this work to another partner in his trading firm. And so his partner took on a bit more responsibility and in doing so managed to allow my client to get more sleep, spend less time getting stressed at work and rebalance his hormones. In fact, this actual incident with this client was the catalyst for me to develop my performance pyramid, especially the body maintenance. The body maintenance being sleep, the most important consideration, and of course other things like breath work and even meditation. We agreed that he would embark upon a different regime, and remarkably his hormones began to rebalance, and all the work we were doing in the studio and his discipline around his nutrition then began to pay off because he had balanced his hormones, got rid of all that cortisol that had been building up and was able to reach his goals successfully. So I want to talk a little bit more about body maintenance and the different components of the body maintenance, this being the third level of the pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, we have fitness underpinned by nutrition and then body maintenance. Body maintenance is primarily sleep, but not limited to sleep because it's also breath work. When we get into situations, especially emotional situations, our breath tends to speed up, and in doing so, we end up getting flustered and more emotional emotional and our rational self tends to dissolve, and we become almost irrational, and we make a lot of bad decisions in this emotional situation. So breath work manages to take control of your breathing pattern and keep you thinking rationally. The other big part of body maintenance is actually related to fitness, and this is in our joint maintenance. So our joints are a super important part of our musculoskeletal system, the kinetic chain. Muscles and bones, obviously we want to increase lean muscle size and density, so that helps us with our health and helps us with our sports performance. But joints are just as important, and rarely do I see fitness programs that incorporate proper joint work in terms of mobility and also in terms of resilience. We want to make our joints mobile, if they're a mobile joint, more stable if they're a stable joint, but with a mobility or stability joint, it needs to be resilient, it needs to be tougher. All of the connecting tissues can be toughened up with the right kind of work that we can do. Okay, so when it comes to body maintenance and our hormonal balance, we can achieve hormonal balance in a variety of ways. One of the ways we can do that is with cold therapy, and cold and hot therapies have been around for a long time, and they induce very interesting physiological responses in human beings. There's a guy called Wim Hof, and I've followed him for quite some time, and Wim Hof is a big believer in the power of cold, and he believes that by immersing ourselves in cold water or in a very cold environment, we get almost a primal hormonal response. We're tapping into hormones that we only really ever need in extreme conditions like extreme cold. And over probably century, 2 centuries, 3 centuries, 200 or 300 years, and certainly in the last 50, 60, 70 years, we've become, as Wim Hof would describe us, as very soft. And we've become very soft because we're very averse to extremes in temperature, particularly the advent of air conditioning in hot climates, and also in cold climates where room temperature can be stabilized, means that none of these primal hormonal responses get tapped into. And when we do, our body goes into this amazing situation or this amazing process called autophagy and the self-repair of the human body. And it's something a lot of alternative practitioners talk about, and something that greatly interests me because I think we don't understand this part of science enough. And there are people like Wim Hof who are out there proving to the science community that what he is saying anecdotally has solid scientific foundation, and he's proven it. So one of the big things he uses is ice baths, and I myself have practiced ice bathing in 8-9 degrees Celsius. Anything below 15-16 degrees is considered to be a cold bath. So when you get down to 8 and 9 degrees, it gets pretty chilly, but you get an amazing sense of renewal when you are doing an ice bath at that temperature. Minimum 2 minutes, up to 3 minutes in an ice bath can be highly beneficial for anyone, not just athletes and people looking for a recovery mechanism in their training, but also just for general health. Ice bathing has a great deal of scientific validity behind it. So what do we have in body maintenance? We've got a few different components to body maintenance. Sleep is most important. Joint maintenance, keeping mobile, stable joints that are resilient and have longevity, very important. Things like ice bathing, cold therapy, even hot therapy, so cold hot therapies. The last part of body maintenance is breath work, and breath work, incorporating breath work into daily activities is certainly going to be beneficial. Okay, so that was body maintenance and understanding the importance of it when it comes to the performance pyramid and how it relates to fitness and nutrition. And the fourth part of the performance pyramid, being the base layer, the foundation of everything, is the mind game. And in my next video, I'm going to talk more extensively about the mind game. So until then, look forward to seeing you then.